All right, hello, hello. How is everybody doing on the first weekend of June? I don't know if you're roasting where you are, but man, it is hot here. And I'm actually kind of glad it's a full moon weekend because it's going to be super humid out there. So, yeah, this one is just going to be a general Q&A, just like any of the past. So if you have any questions about astrophotography, go ahead and start popping them into the chat. And I see that Astro Puppet already said, "Hey, Day." So, hey, Astro Puppet, how you doing? And just to be sure everybody can hear me, right? I know last time I had a problem with that. All right, we have Piedmont Wildlife and Astronomy saying hi from North Carolina. Hi. And Lunar Observer, good evening. Good evening to you as well. Sound is a bit low. Okay. Let me turn it up a little bit. Is that better? One thing I want to make sure is that you guys aren't hearing the AC in the background because it is pretty hot in here. Right. Let's see. Kind of want to just to start it a little bit. Gonna look at a couple comments that I had before. All right, there we go. Astro Puppet started us with, do I have any narrowband suggestions? Actually, there's a ton we can work with. So let me switch it over to my other screen here. First off, Astro Puppet, where are you located? Northern or Southern Hemisphere? Okay, and let me advance this just a little bit. And I'm gonna get it to New Moon. That. Okay, so for the Northern Hemisphere, of course, if you haven't seen my small scopes or this time of year video, you have stuff like the North American Nebula, but the farther south that you live, I would definitely recommend going for stuff here in the Milky Way core, like the Lagoon, the Lobster, or the Cat's Paw, stuff like that. Those are excellent targets for this time of year. One I'm actually going to be redoing is, let me switch back and hide this. Hide my camera. There we go. So I'm going to hide the border and hide camera. Switch to that. So that's my Veil Nebula picture. I'm actually going to be redoing another one here soon. With the Cherry Spring Star Party coming up, I will be doing the Veil Nebula, the whole thing with the 2600. Cygnus isn't viable yet, of course. I see that, Astro. It's, if you're willing to wait an extra half an hour, then it's fine. So this is right around New Year or New Moon here in a couple weeks. Let me transition it back. So it gets dark at roughly 10:30, at least at our latitude. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely be there. So at our latitude and at Cherry Springs, since you said you're gonna be there, we have till 10:30. Now, the one thing you want to keep in mind when you're planning and you want to start with something in the east is always make sure that it is above a certain degree in the sky. And generally that line is about 20 degrees. That way you're above all the muck and you're not shooting through so much atmosphere. And luckily enough, at Cherry Springs, right after astronomical dark starts, the North American Nebula, the Crescent Nebula, the Veil Nebula, all of them are above 20 degrees. So you have a good 4 hours before sunrise. Oh, the unlucky tree. Oh, that sucks, man. But yeah, I would start with those, or if from your backyard or whatever the case is where you are on Long Island, if you can get stuff in the Milky Way core, that would be exactly where I would suggest for at home. But yeah, I guess I'll see you at Cherry Springs. Let me back up a second. So we have Lunar Observer asked about using a reflector for astrophotography. It really depends on what reflector you're going to use. Now, granted, there are reflectors specifically set up for astrophotography, and I have no qualms against those. But if you're going to use something like a Dobsonian, or if you watch, I forget which video it is, but I used my little Orion 3-inch Newtonian. That thing is not in any way, shape, or form designed for astrophotography, so those I would just stick to using the eyepieces, maybe your cell phone. But I wouldn't, if it's not an astrograph, it's not advertised from a reputable manufacturer, such as Orion has some, Skywatchers versions, stuff like that, then I would stick away from those. We have a southerner down here. Good evening from Chile. Hello, Lester. How are things down in your neck of the woods? So Piedmont says, just got my first telescope today, an Explore Scientific ED80. Nice. Riding the GTI. Nice. Yeah, it's going to be a great setup for you. The 533 is a good camera. The one benefit that you're going to love about it is the lack of amp glow. So you don't necessarily have to take darks. I have the 2600 and I still take darks just because I'm used to it. So no. Woody asked, that's not a Bud Light, right? No, it's a 7-Up. I've actually shied away from alcohol for a little bit just to try to get things done, so. You having any problems with the ASIR Plus at all, Piedmont? That's true, Astro Puppet. I get you with the having so much stuff in Cygnus. I've probably done North America the most times out of anything in that region, so I get it. And you mentioned too Orion with the new astrograph. That I'm not sure of. I'm gonna have to look at that. I haven't really paid attention to their scopes lately. It's something I'm gonna have to do. look at their website. Yes, yes, I know you use cookies, thanks. Not seeing the new. Wait. Let me switch it to this. So I'm not seeing an astrograph in their new list, to be honest. This little 32 mini guide scope. Might be interested in checking that out sometime. Yeah, I'm not seeing any new astrographs. So, I don't know, Astro Puppet. Maybe they did, but, you know, it was months ago, and we're just kind of remembering it now. Astro Venture, hello, nice to see you again, man. How's it been going out there in Utah? So, Woody, you mentioned your ASIR Plus doing a nosedive. What do you mean exactly by that? Is it... now, I've had this problem with the HEQ5 Pro where, for some reason, the hemisphere just completely flipped around where... it was funny enough talking about all the Cygnus stuff. I was trying to do the North American Nebula, and instead of saying it was in the Western Hemisphere, it was saying it was in the Eastern, which was kind of weird. So I wonder if yours is doing the same thing. Let me catch up on chat here for a second. Ooh, Dale getting that AM5. You're going to love that thing. I'm telling you. This is a great mount. And let me tell you something. Since you're about to get an AM5, once you use it and you go to a star party where somebody's using something else, you're going to realize how loud other mounts are. It's insane. Like, I don't know what it is about these harmonic mounts, but they are super quiet. The Piedmont mentions getting it onto the Windows 11 laptop. Now, I do need to check again at work because I have a Windows 11 test station at work. Is it in the app yet, or in the App Store yet, or do you have to kind of sideload it? Once it's on the App Store, then I'm going to do what I have to have Windows 11 at home. But until then, I'm just kind of like, I'll stick with 10. Dale mentions I've been helping with the Zero Gear. Thanks. I'm glad that it helps. As long as I help one of you guys, I'm happy. And seeing that it helps more than one, that's even better. Anytime you have a problem, just let me know if there's a problem. You know, something going on with your ASIR or something up with your camera, whatever. Just let me know, and I'll try to help out the best I can. So John's Garage mentions just switching over from DSLR to 533 mono. Not used to new settings to learn. Do I like using the ASIR? Yeah. Pretty much all of my stuff is ZWO gear, so that's not to say I'm not going to switch to other stuff, but yes, the ASIR is amazing. One thing I will recommend, if you don't have it yet, or if you don't have a newer tablet, put that on your list for in the next year or two. As they do changes in the app, you're eventually going to have to replace old tablets. So I have an iPad that I've had for almost 10 years now, and luckily the app still runs on that, but as soon as it dies, you guys will know. As soon as that version of iOS says no more, then we know where the ZWO's cutoff is. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to use your cell phone, I'd still recommend a tablet just for the bigger screen. Wait, what, Astroventure? 6 months of clouds in the desert? What? That's weird. Woody says, we needed somebody like me who specializes in the ASIR. Thank you for the kind words. It was an accidental back myself into a corner thing, but you know, I'm glad to help. Okay, so Piedmont followed up on the Windows 11 thing. It's complicated and you have to do a lot of admin stuff. So, in other words, it's not easily available yet. Once it is, then yes, there will be a video about it. And the smoke from the wildfires in Canada, yes, I get that. The ones in Alberta were heavily affecting my area. So it basically looked like we were looking through a sheet of paper when it should have been blue skies during the day, which is really a bummer. Yeah, Astroventure says it was snowfall, but no, I agree with Astro Puppet. Somebody in your area was just buying a bunch of stuff. You know what it was? Somebody probably went to Neef and then came back with a bunch of stuff a few months ago, and you're still seeing the fallout from that. Excuse me. So Connor says, thinking of switching from the ASIR to Nina or SGP. Being locked into the ZWO ecosystem is limiting. I agree with that. And if the CAA releases soon, might stick with the Air. So, I agree, totally. That's the one thing I don't like about going with the ASIR is that you are kind of stuck in that ecosystem. Mostly. If you have a laptop, then yeah, you can still switch to Nina or SGP and use case scenario. If you're on my Discord, my moderators, Mike and Astro Biomass, both have used both, I believe. I know Mike has used both. And Astro Biomass mostly uses Nina. And he talked Mike into switching to Nina. So every time I see SGP versus Nina, I'm seeing Nina come out on top just for ease of use. So take that one into account if you can, Connor. Dale Beasley mentions, I like the 256 version of the ASIR Plus. I actually haven't touched that one yet. Out of all of the fun things that they like to send me to test out, that's not one of them. But I don't need one, so somebody else can test the 256 version. There is one thing, I don't know if you guys can see it over my head here, that I haven't quite got to yet. Wondering if you can guess what that is. Perry mentions, hi from Rochester. Hi to my northern neighbor up there. If anything, Connor, while I'm still thinking about your comment, keep at least one Air around just for how portable it is. You could easily take like a Skywatcher Star Adventure or something like that with the Air and go on a short hike and get some nice pictures that way. Or, you know, super portable setup. That way you don't have to lug a laptop around or anything like that. Ooh, Astroventure. Planning for a July trip to Bortle 1. Nice. Yeah, that is probably on everybody's bucket list that hasn't done it yet. I'm so used to Cherry Springs right now that Bortle 2 is about the best I've seen. Oh. So what other questions we got here? Go ahead and ask away, anything. I want to check on something. Well, while I wait for questions, let me ask you guys something. So I know that a couple people are going to the Cherry Springs Star Party here in a couple weeks. Anybody else going? Or if not, is there a big Star Party in your area you're planning to go to? Okay, so Michael from my neighboring state, Ohio, says, has the ASIR Plus and the Explore Scientific IXS 100 E-Cube mount with an Astrotech 102 ED refractor. Why would I need a guide scope? So, anything above around 200 millimeter focal length on a camera lens, you're going to start getting to a point where the tracking across the night sky isn't good enough to keep the stars pinpoint sharp. Having an auto guider tell the mount to either speed up, slow down, make these tiny little adjustments will help keep the stars pinpoint sharp. And generally around 200 millimeters in focal length is about where that starts to happen. If you're using a 135 millimeter Rokinon lens, then you can get away with not using auto guiding, even though I would still recommend using it. But anything above that, then using guiding will help keep your stars sharp. Because then even short exposures, say even 30 seconds, 15 seconds, you're going to start getting streaks in your stars. So that's why you would need a guide scope. Lunar Observer asks about doing more videos plate solving, but using Nina. Yes, I'm tinkering with Nina. I'm not at the point yet where I'm comfortable putting a video out, but I'm tinkering with it. So there will be some Nina videos coming up as soon as I feel like I'm ready. Piedmont says, I have a Samsung tablet and I'm just stubborn. Hey, you know what? That's what I use. The iPad that I had was something I won at work years ago, and when I wanted to upgrade, I decided to go with Android because everything else I have is Android, so I get you there. So, Michael, again, the ASIR Plus is more, it's not really gonna make your stars sharp without a guide scope. The ASIR is the brains behind making everything work. You're good. Basically what happens is the guide scope sends commands to the ASIR, says, here's where we are, and then the ASIR is like, whoa, you're moving too fast, or you're going a little bit too slow. You know, your stars are going to start streaking, so make these adjustments. That's what the ASIR does. But you still need a guide scope, and if you're going with any focal lengths larger than 1,000 millimeters, which is something new that we just started with last week's video, we have to start going with off-axis guiding. So we'll get into that in another video. I'm actually going to go over explaining what it is and how it works. Burge asks about the CAA. So beyond what I was talking to them at NEAF about, no. They know that I want to test it when it's available, but I haven't heard any news. I can send an email and just say, hey, do you have any kind of updates? But yeah, I haven't heard anything other than we're still working on it. So once I know, you'll know. Perry mentions getting new kit set up there too, and no power supply. Yeah, I get that. I wish they would sell it with it too. You know, an extra $50 to have a power supply with it. Come on. I agree with Dale there, wanting to go to the Mojave. Definitely would love to head out to that area sometime. In August, though, woo, it's gonna be a little warm. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat here. Oh boy. There's the moderator. I gotta make you a moderator on the channel. But yeah, he's that's Astro Biomass on the Discord server. But let me look out the window real quick. I don't know, too dark and light polluted, I can't tell. Last I looked, it was very hazy. But yeah, you know what? We need the rain to come through now. That way, those of us going to the Cherry Spring Star Party in a couple weeks, the rain's kind of out of, gone and done with. So get your orders in now. Right. Let's see, I haven't missed anything. Alright, oh, Connor puts out a question about, is the 256 version even worth the extra $100? You could get a 1 terabyte flash drive for the same price and more convenient. I agree. Where the benefits of the 256 come into play, say you don't have an ASI Air. First off, it's going to be the only thing on the market unless you're going for used. If you already have one and you want a second one, then of course that's what you're going to end up getting. But where the benefit is the speed. So it does have better transfer speeds than the original Plus. So it's not really a big issue with long exposure photography like we do. But if you're going to be doing planetary or solar, where you're using video, then that transfer speed comes into play. So that's where it could be a little bit worth it. But if you're not planning on doing planetary or solar, then I don't see the benefit. I agree with you. Just buy a big thumb drive and call it good. Plus, I always say use the thumb drive. I have hundreds of them. Well, not hundreds, but a bunch. It's easier to just shove this in your pocket when you're done for the night instead of bringing the ASI Air in and turning it on and connecting it to your computer to transfer everything. So I get it. And Zach mentions cheapest manual rotator I could get. Couldn't wait for ZWO to come out with theirs. Yes, I agree. And hopefully, now they were listening to a lot of feedback at NEAF about what we think the price should be. So I'm hoping that they take that into account, without going too far into depth on what the range was that was being suggested. Let's just say that the other rotators out there, the producers of those, are not going to like the price if CWO goes with it. So it'll be along the cheaper side of things. Astro Puppet mentions a great week, 12 hours on 101. Nice. Nice long supernova picture. So definitely when you get that supernova picture done, find a way to send it to me and let me see how yours looks. So Piedmont asks about problems with Starlink satellites in their photos. They seem to be everywhere in Stellarium, and watch my videos, notice. Yeah, okay. So it's not only just pictures. So the good thing is, when you do your processing, they will process out when you stack, because the software does recognize what is a star, what is your object, and what is a man-made object that's in the way. So you don't have to worry too much about the processing side of it, but yes, they are everywhere. Last weekend, there was a couple star parties at our local observatory, and that's where I filmed last week's video. And there were quite a few times where I would recenter because I had my Dob on like M13 or even Venus or the Moon or whatever. Plenty of times I was just recentering the eyepiece and a satellite would go right through it. And yeah, it was, you could see a lot of them. Plus, just one thing that we find fun to do at the observatory is see how many we can see with the naked eye, which you can see a lot. So you don't have to worry too much about the processing side of it, though. You'll get them out of your pictures. Ouch, Dale. 12-hour commute. It's a little bit nuts there, man. Yeah, Zach asked a great question. What are people working on? So we already know that Astro Puppet's working on 101. Hopefully at Cherry Springs you pick something different because of the better skies out there. I already know what my targets are for Cherry Springs, so I'm not going to spoil it yet. You don't have to do that. You don't have to give me the data. You can just show me. Alright, so Perry asks, being new to the hobby, why is back focus not an issue when using a 2x Barlow, but it is when using a field reducer for an 8SE? That is, interesting one. So, I don't have any good graphics to show you, like, how it all works, but to sum it up, with both the reducer and the Barlow, either way, say this is the last plane on your imaging train before the camera. So this would be your Barlow or reducer. What ends up happening is you create like a little triangle where your focal point goes, and the Barlow and the reducer both shift that in different directions, which is why there's all these different adapters that come with the ZWO cameras and the QHY cameras and all of those. So that way you can find that one spot where your focal point comes down to that pinpoint spot. So using the Barlow, that would just mean that your back focus distance is a little bit shorter than it is with the reducer. So you don't have to take it as far back. hope that I hope that answers it for you. I like using the little graphs and pop-ups in the videos, so doing it by hand is a little bit a little bit weird. Dale is heading out to his local observatory. Have fun. Hope the night stays clear for you, even though it's full moon. Have fun out there. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Lunar Observer asks about my favorite setup. So, right now, it is definitely the AM5 for the mount. Hands down, that is an exceptional mount that I love. But because I got a new telescope, my favorite is still using the Xenostar 61 with the 2600. But because I want to go a little bit deeper and get some of those smaller objects, or from our perspective, smaller objects rather, that C6 is going to be doing some work. So one of the things that I have to work on, and I'm gonna make a video about it, is one thing I wasn't super happy with, and let me pull it up. Let's see, 26. Okay, so this is my pinwheel picture from last weekend. The center seems okay to me, but it's really these edges. You can tell that, you know, there's a lot going on with the mirror in that SCT, so there's a lot to fix, and that's why using a reducer is good for an SCT, because the reducer corrects the problems that come up with the mirror and the convex shape of the mirror. So that's one thing I'm not super happy about with my supernova picture, but there's not much I can do about it. Like, from what I understand from people who are way better at visual observations than I am, they think that the supernova's already peaked, so it's probably about as best as it's gonna get for that one for me. So it is what it is. Astro Puppet, you're gonna have an amazing picture with all that data, so Astro Venture mentions, I print my images and have plenty of megapixels to print large from my DSLRs. How many megapixels are the typical average Astro dedicated cameras? Seems they aren't that many that print large. When you go to do your prints, something you want to watch out for more is your DPI in your pictures. You want to have it around 300 DPI, and that is just so when you have it, you know, at a certain distance from you, it looks like it should, just the same as it did on the monitor for you when you were processing. So 300 DPI is about the usual that they recommend for prints. For your pixel size, it's really variable. Yeah, I'm not the best with the prints, so I will be the first to admit that one. Not the best with the prints, but 300 DPI is generally what you want to go for when you do a print. And one thing I've already found out is if you're going to do metal, if you're doing something, because I printed out my Veil Nebula picture on metal before, you want to make the blacks a little bit brighter than usual, because once it goes on metal, it will be very dark. So, yeah, your colors will be a little bit off on metal. Oh, you will. You'll have time sometime. Probably in the winter, when it's cold. John asks about M31 mono. Would you add HA to RGB? Actually, yeah. Yeah, I would. Some of the best pictures I've seen of M31, they did do a specific pass on HA just to get the nebulae that you can see in that galaxy. So, and there are also a lot of the really stunning pictures, like the mind-boggling, like holy crap, you know, those ones are usually mosaics too. But every time they did do a pass with hydrogen alpha, so yes, I would recommend it. Heck, I would recommend that with even M33 or the pinwheel, anything really, because there's a lot we can see in those other galaxies, so I wouldn't discount doing HA at all. Zachary mentions drizzling for better resolution will help give you a larger print too. Yes, it will. I will caution, depending on your picture, it might make things a little worse. That's not always the case. It might make it better, it might make it worse, so just watch it. Do multiple passes if you plan on printing. Do one without drizzling and one with, and compare and see which one you like better. Double check chat here. I think we're good. I think we're caught up. Yeah, so let me see. Zach did ask earlier about some targets. What are you guys planning on shooting? Or for the next couple of months while summer stuff is in the sky, do you guys have a request for an object for me to get? Maybe I'll squeeze it in. So Piedmont asks about doing a North American nebula with a 480mm scope. Any suggestions? At that focal length, I would say you might have to mosaic, but let's look into that. Let's bring this back up and switch it over. Okay. So, turn this on so I can lock onto it. Ooh. And I was playing around a little bit too much earlier. Okay. So I'll back it out to the 294, so the chip size is a little bit close. And then which one do I have that... Well, I thought I had 480 in there, but I guess not. So we'll go with the Xenostar 61. So if we do the Xenostar 61 and trying to find a good chip that I have in here that would match. I don't have one. So your chip will be a little bit different than this. And because of the focal length of that scope, you're going to be in just a little bit more. So you will have more focal length like this. So I would suggest mosaicing a little. Maybe rotate this way and do a top, middle, and bottom mosaic. That way you get the most data out of it. Because you're going to be cutting close at that focal length. Like, you're going to be just squeezing the sides here, basically where the east coast and the west coast of the nebula are. So, yeah. You might have to mosaic just a little bit. So John is saying, I'm hearing it's possible to image in mono when there's a half moon or a full moon. Do I have experience with this? So no, everything I have is one-shot color, but Zach, if you could chime up about that, that would be great, because Zach does shoot mono. But it is possible. Apparently, let me say it first, but then maybe Zach can correct me. Luminance is best to get during like the darker times, and then RGB is what you get during full moon. I think that's it, but Zach can correct me. Astro Venture says July trip Roafuki. Is that that's what you're planning on getting, right? Because that is excellent target, especially. Let me scroll back up. You're well, you have a good setup, so I know you'll get something good out of it. Connor just started a 4-panel show mosaic on North America at 650. Nice. That is going to be fantastic. So it'll be, let's switch it back in here. So a little bit closer to this, really. So yeah, that's gonna get a lot of detail out of the Cygnus wall and everything around it too. Nice. I didn't realize that about the moon washing out oxygen. Excuse me. I know that there is, like I said, I do mostly one-shot color, so I know that there is a certain time that for the full moon using a certain filter is perfect. So you still, like, you're not losing any nights. I mean, you could still go out tonight if you want, but it's the combination of all that data where you'll eventually get the picture you want anyway. So use any chance you get. Perry asks about the new Red Cat 61 with the new focuser. I actually haven't, like, I looked at it briefly at NEAF, but I haven't really looked at it, so let's take a look at it. Oh, jeez. Like that, so... So is the Red Cat 61. Wow, they actually don't have it listed on their website yet. Interesting. One thing that I do really like for new focusers that William Optics is doing is... let's see if I can find one here. Surprise. There we go. Yeah, these ones, the new focusers. So These things, let me tell you, they had a couple at Woodland Hills, had a couple set up at their booth at NEAF. Those focusers are amazing. Because once you have, like, for balance and everything else, nothing moves except what's inside there, just like it's showing on the screen here. But on top of that, the knobs on those things, and Zach can attest to this one, the knobs on those are insanely smooth. So the one thing that I'm wondering about, because these knobs are so freaking huge, is if they've changed the pin size inside to where autofocuser manufacturers are going to have to come up with a different autofocuser just for those, or a different coupler. But yeah, these ones are outstanding. I can't wait to see these things on the market. Okay, there we go. Zach answered my question there about getting HA and S2 mono as for dark, or for the moony nights, and O3 for less moony. So yeah, there we go. I'm not the person to talk to about mono at this point, but you know, I can refer you to somebody that is the person to talk to. So Lunar mentions the video of an asteroid or object hitting the moon's surface. I believe that was, if I'm thinking of the one that, like, people were taking it with their cell phones and you could see the splash. I believe that was like a scene from a movie or something that got spread all over social media as something that actually happened, if it's the one I'm thinking about. So, easier objects for... Piedmont asks about easier objects for a first-timer to image. North and west are really open. Right now, you could do... Let me... Actually, before I get into your answer there, Piedmont, let me look. I think you already posted what you are running. Let me double check. So the ED80 with the 533. Okay. So, yeah. All right. So, let's go over that. So, the ED80 is basically kind of similar to what we have here. Let's make sure that... Oh, I didn't put the ED80 on here. Bummer. All right. So, the ZS81 is close. And we're going to leave the 294 on there, so let's go north and west. So an option for north is... where am I here? You could do the Cigar and Bodes with that setup. So that's a good place to start. You're going to have to group. You're not going to be able to single out one or the other, but you could also frame it so you get the Garland Galaxy in there. If we want to go west, right now there isn't a whole lot west. This time of year is kind of a little bit rough for smaller focal lengths like that, but well, I'm gonna have to use constellation lines because it is too bright in here. You could go for the Leo triplet, but because it gets dark so early, you're only going to get like an hour or two before it gets too low. So you're going to have to do multiple nights to get anything decent. Could do parts of Markarian's chain. You know, early on in the night, and then as it the night progresses, you could flip over to stuff coming past the meridian. So there are a few things you could do to start there, Piedmont. Do you have any options south, or is it just north and west are pretty much your open sky? Okay. While I wait for Piedmont to follow up, Woody asked about an ASIR live stacking demo. So yeah, I can definitely do one. So the pinwheel picture from last weekend and my Andromeda picture, that's actually the one when with the stream starting, both of those have live stack data in it. That Andromeda picture is purely live stack. If you've never used it, one thing I will recommend right off the bat is if you plan on doing slightly longer exposures with live stacking, tell the ASIR to save your frames, because then you can use that data later. Even if you're going out another night and shooting the same target but doing longer exposures, you can still use that data. So I would say always have that check mark check there. Save every frame. But one thing you're going to have to keep in mind is if you're using it for like EAA or anything like that, you're going to have to do calibration frames beforehand. I'm going to double check this, but I do believe that it has to have a fresh set of calibration frames. Last weekend, I ran a set of flats and then had to shut off the air for one reason or another, and then turn it back on, and I had to rerun the flats, which is kind of annoying. But I'm going to double check all that, and yes, we will do a live stacking demo for you. Okay, Perry followed up on Zero EAF, and the scope is rigged for the install. So you're talking about the new ones, the new William Optics ones. Nice. Okay. So yeah. One thing I would like to see them do with all EAFs is add in a couple couplers, or at least adapters for the couplers, to where you don't have to go buy third party. Like the C6 I just got, Zewo does make a kit where you can hook it up to like a C8 or an Edge HD, but not the C6. And I had to buy third party. Buckeye Astro is the website if you ever get a 6-inch SCT, where he 3D prints and sells the kit for attaching an EAF. So kind of wish that they would do something to make it a little bit more adaptable to multiple scopes instead of sticking to certain lines. But then again, I could just go buy a 3D printer and do that myself, you know? Piedmont says, cigar and bodes it is. South is not ideal and west is not an option. Or probably east, you mean east is not an option. So yeah, this time of year, it's a little bit rough because of galaxy season ending and Milky Way season coming in. If you wait another month or two, then the stuff that's currently in the east will at least be starting to hit meridian and at least be directly overhead earlier in the night for you. But all right, I got time for a couple more, and then I'm gonna give my throat a break here. So John asks about a tablet good for the ASIR Astrophotography. So the one I use, the tablet I use, is just Samsung A10, I think. I don't know, that I got off of Amazon. Any Samsung Galaxy series works. ASIRs are great for it. Apple iPads, they're great. They work all the time. But that's, if you don't want to pay the price for an iPad, then Samsung is my recommended brand for Android. Haven't messed too much with other brands of Android, so the A10, let me just double check. I'm not going to show you my order history, but when I bought it, it's around $200 all, I think. Let's see. Yeah, so the Galaxy Tab A 10-inch, it was around $200 when I bought it. But of course, there's newer tablets that are probably better than that one these days. So I bought that one 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. Perry asks, are calibration frames needed for planetary imaging? I would still take them. There could be a speck of dust right in the center of your objective that goes right in front of Jupiter, so it wouldn't hurt. Let me pull up, just for an example to show you. So when you go into PIP to start your processing on planetary, it does bring in your image, your darks, your flats, and flat darks. So you don't need to worry about bias. But when you do those with video, because most of the time when you do planetary, it'll be video, you'll want to do pretty much the similar process, but just with video. So that if you watch the video that just came out the other day, I did do a little bit of a shot of the sun. Now, when I did that, and here it is, I have right here is the video that I use, and that's my regular one. But then for flats, I had this one right here, which was just a defocused video of the sun, so that way I could get those dust spots. Now for darks and flats, because it's all video anyway, just toss your cap on and shoot away. For solar, definitely, you still need to do flats, because I processed the solar image without doing the flats, and you could see the dust spots, so yeah. Oh yeah, Woody, I agree. The ASIR has a ton of potential. There's things that I'm thinking that they need to do both on the hardware and the software side of the ASIR, but that's for another time as I jot down and put it all into a cohesive video. But I've been thinking about the app lately on where its shortcomings are, so that's probably something that's going to be coming up in the next month or so, is where I think the good side is on the current state of the app, but also where it could improve. So, yeah. Astro Puppet says getting out for the night and going to sleep. Yeah, have a good night. Yeah, and be there in Cherry Springs in 2 weeks. And yes, I will definitely stop by the CCTS booth. Are you kidding me? Of course I will. So, all right, yeah, we'll see you at Cherry Springs, man. But yeah, give you guys another couple minutes for questions, and then give it about 5 more minutes, and I'm gonna get out of here too. So there's a certain furball laying down here that probably needs to, you know. All right. sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, and Piedmont, yes, you're welcome. Glad I could help there. As you're getting set up, if you have any problems, like I said, you know, hop on our Discord if you're not there already. If you are, just let me know what your username is. Or just send me a message and I'll try to help out the best I can if you have any problems. Perry's taking off. Have a good night, Perry. Clear skies to you too, man. So John asks about what I use for the 12-volt power supply. I'll pull that up real quick. Let me grab one. So there's two parts to this with the 12-volt power supply, because I just ordered couple other things too. Same order. There's that. And that. Okay. So, for the AC to DC, this is what I use, the Schumacher one. Basically, and you know, no shame in saying it. It was the one that Trevor recommended years ago, and I picked it up, and I've had no problems with it, so I'm also recommending it. So, it's a great one. I have two of these now. They're excellent for $30. I mean, you can't go wrong. Now, it does not come with the cigarette or barrel end of the cable, so for that, you need to get one of these. And this one, and I'll throw it in chat for you, I'll throw both of them in chat for you. This is the one I use. So, that and that. So there you go. I will say though, with these brand new, the little side springs on here, when you put that into the cigarette part of the adapter here, it does get a little bit loose over time. With some wear, it'll stay in, but always double check it and be careful not to move it, at least for the first few months of use, because it will be very touchy. I've had it shut off. That's why I mentioned it being very touchy. So, yeah. Woody says, thanks for attending the shows. It'd be nice to find a schedule on when and where they happen. Yeah, so you're welcome. The NEAF one is always in April, as far as I understand. So that one's always in April, and it's always at the same college in New York. So they've already announced that they're doing, I want to say, yeah, the weekend of the 20th in April next year. That's when that show's going to be. And I was hoping that they were going to go for later in the month because of the eclipse early in April. So that's a good thing there. For the star parties, generally, if you know where the star party is going to be, look and see. Like the Cherry Springs Star Party, they have a website. For the one in the fall, that's Black Forest Star Party. They are doing theirs the weekend of the 20th, I believe, in September. It is weekend of the 16th in September. So yeah, they do have schedules, Woody, but it's just not all in one spot, unfortunately. Cloudy Nights might have a list, but maybe I'll just make one. Cloudy Nights would be the best spot to look though. To follow up on yours, Woody, since I saw that come in, they should have something, or Stargazer's Lounge. But just to finish up real quick, Kelly mentions getting the ASI Air and a Celestron Advanced GT mount. That seems to have a hiccup during the polar alignment. Have you tried using the I think they call it either enhanced or the all sky one? It just uses a different algorithm for plate solving for polar alignment. Have you tried that one yet? And Burge asks, why is it that when I'm in station mode, my download speed is much slower than when I'm just connected to the ASI Air? I've been trying to figure that one out too. When you're in station mode, do you have it hardwired into the router or the portable router that you're using? Or is it just straight up Wi-Fi and that's it? Because if that's the case, then what that's essentially doing is the ASI Air is going to your router in your house and then bouncing back to your phone. So there's an extra hop in there, and that's one spot where it could be slowing things down. The other, with the other method where you're just connected directly to it, there's no third step. And it could be based on the distance that it has to travel to, or any walls in between the ASI Air and your router inside. So that could be a factor. I know a factor with me here, my bathroom is right back there, and where I live, I actually have bars on my bathroom windows that were here when I got here, because I rent this place, and those bars massively interrupt my signal whether I'm in station mode or not. So the materials of your walls also have a huge play. All right, and Zach also offered up help for anybody for mono shooters. He's on the Discord. He's one of the moderators there. But I think that about wraps it up for tonight. We'll try to get another one going next month during full moon. And if you're going to Cherry Springs here in a couple weeks, I'll see you there. Burge mentions hardwired. Primary router only sends 5G and secondary sends 5 as well as 2.4. Okay. So it's bouncing between two different routers? That one kind of... Alright, so let me figure this out here. So your air is going to hardwired to one that's 5, which is then repeating to one that's 5 point... that is 2.4 and 5? Or is it the other way around? It's hardwired to the 2.4 and that one's bouncing to the one that only does 5. Either way, there's a couple different bounces in there that's happening, and that's causing your slowdown. The other side of that too is if you're converting from 2.4 up to 5, it's basically hopping between networks to do that. So one spot where you could speed things up is just make sure everything is on the 2.4 network. While I wait for you to answer that, Burge, I'm going to switch to Kelly here. See another video that says disconnect the mount and ASI will ask if you want to continue. Manually reconnect. Okay, so that was with the hiccup. With the polar alignment. Huh. Well, for now, give it a try. Try using the other one. If anything, there are spots where you can give Zebo feedback. They do have Facebook groups. They do have their own official forums where you can say, hey, I'm experiencing this with this specific mount. If you want to create a detailed write-up and give it to me, I'll send it to them. And Piedmont asked about Cherry Springs being sold out. Yes, it is actually the fastest it's sold out this year. It sold out in 8 hours. So right now there are people who are already starting to back out because they can't get time off of work or something else came up. So watch Cloudy Nights, Cherry Springs official Facebook page. There are people reselling their tickets. So if you still want to go, you still have time. But you're going to have to find somebody reselling. Okay, Burge. So you say you have the Xfinity router. That won't work because it sends only 5G, which is annoying, but yeah, okay. Comcast, they need to settle down there. And a 2.4 router connected directly to the Xfinity one. Now, did you set everything up all to use the same SSID, so your network name? Or is it all different, where you have, like, network name 2.4, network name 5G? Because if you do 2.4, if you have it separate, then you can get it to where when you're just dealing with the ASI air, everything is only on the 2.4 network. Okay. Yeah, so opening another beverage here. No, it's not alcoholic. It's one of these zero sugar Dr. Peppers. But yeah, separate names. Yeah, I would make sure that everything is on the 2.4 and just try to bypass the 5 if at all possible. Trying to think of the best use case for this. Basically, what you want to do is minimize the hops that's happening. So from the ASI air to the router, to another router, to another router, to your phone or tablet, you want to minimize how many hops you get. One thing that a local club member and I figured out with the ASI air is that switching antennas doesn't really help much. So if you've done that using the, well, you're hardwired anyway, so it doesn't really matter there, but the 2.4 router, is that a full-size router or a little travel one? Yeah, if it's a little travel one, while you answer that, it might not output a lot of power, which could also slow things down. I'm actually, hilariously enough, I'm grabbing one of my old routers for Cherry Springs and making sure here soon that all my ASIers are on the same network. So, okay, so it's full size, so power isn't the problem. So it can output to a pretty good distance. The other cause I would think of is materials in the walls between, you know, if you're inside and the SAR is outside, so whatever's in your walls, any neighbors that might have anything running that could cause interference on your signal, that could cause slowness. Excuse me. Try updating the firmware on the router if you have a chance. That could help a little bit. And I'm trying to find, once I figure this out, I'm trying to find the ports that the ASIer uses when it is connected to the Wi-Fi. I haven't found those yet. Once I do, then you can figure out how to set up rules on your router to say, hey, the ASI Air has priority. So once that happens, you guys will know. But I'm starting to get a little raspy here, so for now, Verge, I would just like I said, take into account what you have at your house, like I said, materials of the walls, neighbors, update your stuff if it's out of date, and try to stay on the same network. But if you have any other problems or you want to continue the conversation, if you're not on my Discord, definitely hop on it, and we can continue that, and maybe we test a few things. But I'm going to be getting out of here in a second. Let me pull this up just in case you guys don't have it. It's the link to my Discord. And it pulled all that nonsense in too, but yeah, just the discord.gg. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, let this guy go out and do his business, because he's still laying there behind me. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys here soon. If I see you at Cherry Springs, I see you at Cherry Springs. If not, then see you when the next video comes out next month's live. Hope you all have a good night. Clear skies.